Welcome to As the Story Grows. I'm Brian Patton. Today we welcome Sam Landa and Janel Duarte from Conquer Divide to the podcast. The new Conquer Divide record, Slow Burn, is out this Friday, September 8th on Mascot Records. Sam and Janel talk about their musical journeys and joining Conquer Divide, being women in the metal scene, redefining the band, and Slow Burn. Since this interview, I've gotten to listen to Slow Burn, and it's a great record. Make sure you add it to your list of things to check out on Friday. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform of choice. Make sure you check out the links in the show notes for the Discord server, the As the Story Grows mailing list, and the Patreon page. Patreon members get early access to every episode of As the Story Grows. Come hang out and join the fun. Enjoy today's chat with Sam and Janel from Conquer Divide.
Obsession, crawling out of our own skin.
I mean, I feel like Janel is such a rarity because she is also a really good singer as well as screamer, and she's got more singing on the new album, which is cool, which, you know, she can tell you about. But it's cool to see someone that's able to do both, because a lot of people, like, they'll be a really good screamer, but like not as a strong singer, or vice versa. I always liked singing, but I don't think I'm a good singer, so I tend to stay away from it until I've had a couple drinks at karaoke. Then maybe a couple of us can go up together, but no. Yeah. I think most people in Conquer Divide can sing somewhat. Like I've heard Izzy's voice. Izzy's got a nice voice. Kristen has a really high voice, high range. And obviously Key and Janel, great singers. Yeah. But I've noticed that a lot of musicians in general, a lot of the best musicians I know can also sing somewhat, or they can at least keep a tune. And it's just like, I feel like once you're a musical person, it kind of all goes hand in hand. So it's kind of cool, including drummers. A lot of drummers I know can also sing.
How's it going?
It's good. How are you?
I'm good.
It's just really hot here, so I'm sweating. Melting, actually.
Yeah. Are you in Texas?
I am currently. It's been like 105 the past month, and I'm just ready to get to the East Coast / Midwest. I'm ready. Soon. Wednesday.
Yeah. Oh, but then you get to suffer in Montreal for a little bit.
Well, I mean, honestly, anything is better than Texas.
True. It's not as hot as Texas.
I will say that.
Yeah. Why are you in Texas?
That's where I'm from. And I live, but I'm not going to be living here for much longer. I'm actually going to move to Michigan this winter, so seasons.
Yeah. Nice. Well, welcome, both of you. Stoked to have you on. I was hoping to get a stream of the album to be more prepared, but I've only heard the singles, and I dig them so far, so stoked you're here. Let's just start. Sam, you are originally from Canada, British Columbia. Is that what I saw?
I'm originally from British Columbia. Yeah, I now live in Quebec, in Montreal.
Nice. What about you, Janel?
I live currently in Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
For now.
Is that where'd you grow up?
Austin. Yeah.
Austin.
Grew up in Austin, born in El Paso, moved here at 5, and I've been here since. So I'm an Austinite.
Nice. Nice. Let's start with you, Sam. What was growing up like for you?
Like music-wise, or just in general?
Just in general.
I don't know. It was good. It was cool. Everything was pretty good. I don't know. Relatively stable home life, siblings. I'm like, where do I start? I mean, I don't know. I grew up playing piano, taking piano lessons. I played classical piano for almost 10 years. Started very, very young. In my family, it's pretty much par for the course to take piano lessons. So yeah, I played piano for a long time. My mom used to be a piano teacher way back. My sister took lessons. I don't know if my brother ever did. And then, I don't know. I don't listen to the same kind of music that my parents do. So I grew up in it's a diverse musical household. We had like jazz, big band, 80s pop, Whitney Houston,
Hey.
The classics. I don't know. I mean, I grew up in Richmond. It's just outside of Vancouver. And I didn't leave. I was there for most of my life. I was in the Vancouver area for most of my life, and now I live out east, Montreal. But I don't know unless you specifically want to know like how I got into drumming or like anything like that.
Yeah,
I was in school band.
Into drumming.
Okay, yeah. I was in school band in 6th grade. They didn't have piano in the orchestra, so I asked what was the most difficult instrument to learn out of the instruments they had, because I was a little shit, and then they said maybe drums or French horn, and so I chose drums, and man, I don't know. I was in school band, I was in concert band, I was in jazz band, I was in a youth orchestra playing percussion, and because I played piano, I was usually the only drummer that could play mallet percussion, so I would sometimes end up being the one playing the xylophone, vibraphone, the bells, things like that. So I do have a casual percussion background as well. I'm not the best tambourine player out there, but I don't know. Yeah. And then I just kept drumming, and then I was in high school, and it was like cool to be in a band, and I was listening to bands like Blink-182 and Green Day, and I had friends that wanted to jam, so we started jamming when I was probably around 14, 15, and I was in bands. I was in like rock bands during school, and then I started because back in the day, at least in Western Canada, we had a website called kickinthehead.com, and that was like how you would find other musicians. It was kind of like a musicians classified, super, super regional. And so I would find like all these other like teen musicians to play with, but sometimes it'd be like an hour and a half on like the bus to get out to jam with people, because there weren't enough people to jam with at my school, or like, so a lot of my high school years was like being in bands with people who lived like an hour plus away, and it was a pain because none of us had cars. So
Yep.
Yeah.
Trying to get your parents to drive you to band practice?
They did not. I had to get myself there.
Jeez.
Oh man.
Hour and a half each way.
Were you lugging drums with you?
No, thank God.
Oh no.
But
Okay.
often I'd have to bring like a pedal or like cymbals or a snare or something like that. But I was really lucky in that anytime I was in a band with someone, it was partly because they had drums at home, because we couldn't jam at my place.
Yeah.
And I had a drum set from the age of 16. If I wanted to practice, my parents had to move the car out of the single car garage. I had to set up my drums in the garage to practice and then take it down when I was done. And so needless to say, I didn't practice at home very often because it was just such a pain in the ass. I didn't want to set up and take down my kit every time I wanted to just jam for like an hour. So anytime I practiced, a lot of time it would just be at school, like lunch or after school, whenever there was time and I didn't, wasn't going to feel the FOMO of not going out with friends. So yeah.
Nice.
That's it. Yeah.
Nice. Janelle, what was your musical background?
Oh man. I think it really started, I was actually thinking about this the other day. The Selena movie, like the Latina singer. I grew up watching that, and I think that just got me heavily fascinated with like tour buses and performing and all of that. And I just really idolized that. So I think that implanted the seed. Then I just started singing whatever my mom would play, and that would be like a lot of Celine Dion and 80s music, disco. So I just started singing, and then once I hit 6th grade, she was like, all right, my mom was like, you're going to be in orchestra and you're going to play violin like me and your sister did. And I was like, no, I want to be in choir. And she was like, no, you're going to be in orchestra. So I was like, I guess I'm going to be in orchestra. So I was in orchestra. I played violin in the first violins from 6th grade to senior year, and I loved it. I fell in love with orchestra after being forced. So I did that for my whole high school career, but then at the same time, I bullied my mom enough to get me into vocal lessons around the same time. So I was doing orchestra, vocal lessons, and then I conveniently decided I wanted to start screaming and started to do that at that age around 2008 and 2009. And Oh, that scream sounded super weird. Definitely not what you hear today. And I just kept doing that until I graduated. And then I finally was like, bro, I want to learn how to scream like the metalcore way and like, you know, highs, lows, mids. So then I somehow figured that out. Lots of trial and error, weird sounds, you know, blasting music, just trying to do it. And then I found out how to do the metalcore scream. And then at that same time, like 8 months later, I got into Conquer Divide. So, and then, yeah, here we are all these years later doing all that. And now I'm a vocal teacher. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Circle.
What was the moment or record or band that made you want to scream at first?
The Used.
The Used?
Easily. I don't know what it was. Just the way Bert from The Used, like, incorporated just so much emotions with his screams, and it just looked very appealing to little baby emo Janel. And I was like, I want to do that. It looks so angsty. And then I learned how, and I just fell in love with that too. So yeah, it was all, if it wasn't for The Used, I probably wouldn't have moved on to screaming.
Nice. Sam, what was your transition into metal?
It was pretty slow. Yeah, because I was really into more like the pop punk kind of stuff in high school. And then at the end of high school, or I was like maybe 16 or 17, and there was another drummer at my school who I was friends with, and he showed me a Mike Portnoy drum solo, and it had all this double kick in it, and like I'd never heard double bass before, and I was like, oh my god, what is that? It's like sounds like a machine gun. And he's like, oh, it's like a double pedal, and yeah, you can play super fast because you use both your feet. And I got really excited, and I'm like, first of all, I want to hear more music with double kick, and second of all, I really want one. It ended up being my high school grad present from my parents. They got me an Iron Cobra double kick, and I was very, very happy. But yeah, so I mean, it was first like I was shown Dream Theater and kind of like prog metal kind of stuff. But around the same time, I was also into like Alexis on Fire and that kind of stuff. I was definitely also into like The Used and a lot of the more like emo, screamo kind of stuff. Finch was my favorite band in high school. And I think it just got like progressively heavier. And then like I didn't like screams at all in any music until I heard Alexis on Fire. And then for some reason I was like, oh, they kind of switch back and forth. Like they do singing, but then it's like, okay, the screaming is like a percussion instrument. And I, as a drummer, like that made more sense to me, and I finally got it. And so I was listening to more music that had screaming in it, and then double kick. And yeah, I was getting into stuff like, what was I listening to? Misery Signals and that sort of band. And then it just kind of progressed from there. I don't know. But I mean, I ended up in the extreme metal stuff. And the bands I usually mention are like Death and Carcass and that kind of stuff. And yeah, I don't know. It was just, I just kept looking for like heavier and more brutal.
Yeah. How'd you end up in Dead Asylum?
We started that band. It was two of us. So Mike, who's the singer, and he's switched instruments a couple times, but yeah, he and I knew each other just from the Vancouver scene, and we were like, oh, we want to start a metal band. And there were two other guys that came like also as kind of a package deal. It was a bassist and lead guitarist. So we found them online, and then the four of us started jamming, and that's basically how that happened.
Nice. And then how do you go from there to playing with Nervosa in Brazil?
Oh boy. Yeah. So that was a referral. Yeah. So for 5 years I went on 70,000 Tons of Metal. So it's a metal cruise for anyone listening who doesn't know what it is. And I've just met a lot of people on that cruise, and a lot of people who are people in bands, and getting to know them. And so it was Tony from Municipal Waste who said, hey, do you know Nervosa? And I'm like, yeah, the band's great. And he's like, well, they apparently just lost their drummer and they're touring in Europe. And they're looking for somebody to fill in super last minute on like their next tour. You know, I can pass on your name. And I'm like, oh my God, yeah, that would be awesome, because I already liked the band. And so I learned the set super quick. I sent them a couple videos. They're like, great. Then they bought me a plane ticket, flew out. At the time I was still living in Vancouver. They flew me to Montreal, and then we toured together for a couple months. We did North America and we did Europe together. And yeah, it was awesome. I love those girls, and it was just those were amazing tours.
Nice. Janel, how did you go from Texas to joining Conquer Divide in Michigan?
Yeah, quite the leap. I was doing a lot of vocal covers on YouTube. I was also just like, well, now I learned how to scream. Let's see if I can start building a little bit of a resume to like, hopefully find a band. And it worked. I literally covered Machines by Crown the Empire. And that was the first cover where I did the screamy part, and it came out like perfect. I was like, oh God, I got that metalcore scream in there. Wow, I was so proud of it. And so, but that cover came by so quick. Like I literally, so I'm really good friends with Teddy from Catch Your Breath. I don't know if you know who they are, but they had Dial Tone, big old song. But me and him, we go back like 10 years. So he was like, all right, dude, let's do this cover. And I was like, I gotta be up at 6 a.m, bro. So I went in, did this cover really quick, like didn't think twice about it. I was like, all right, cool. Mix it, edit, buy. And then I went to work really early at a grocery store. And then literally like maybe like a week or a few days later, I get a message from Kia on Messenger, and it was actually on Thanksgiving 2014. And she was like, hey, my name's Kia. I'm in a band called Conquer Divide. We just saw your cover of Machines and we're looking to get a screamer. We're wondering if you want to audition. And I was like, okay. I was like, whoa. And I had heard of Conquer Divide a year prior because Eyes Wide Shut came out a year prior. So I remember being like, dang, I know this band. They came up on my Discovery Weekly. And then, yeah. So it really was just this random cover I just did on a whim that Teddy tagged Joey Sturgis because he used one of his, he used gain reduction. And then Joey saw it and then showed Kristen. And then here I am, almost 10 years later because of a cover.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Was the band already signed to Artery at that point?
Yeah, that was like one of the first things. After that message from Kia, she was like, can I call you real quick? And I was like, oh, yeah. So I was like shaking and like, oh, my God. And she was like, yeah, we're signed to Artery. We're going to go on these tours. Like, we're literally about to finish writing or tracking this album. And like, so I was like, oh. And yeah, so I got the part, flew up and tracked the album in 2 weeks.
Wow.
Wild.
Like a boss.
It was so scary. Like I said, I had just learned how to like really nail down the metalcore scream, and they're like, "All right, go record this album." I was like, "Okay, I know what I'm doing."
You're like the terror at the headlights. What I say you didn't want to believe. You're
What was the scene like for you guys? Because even though that's not a long time ago, it's long enough to where like the scene was not very gender diverse and like, was very male dominated at that point. Right. And like, there's a lot of token women in the scene.
Yeah, it was hard. I feel like we just tried so hard just to blend in with the boys. So we just, I remember our show attire was so dressed down and toned down because we were trying to match the guys. So we just really just tried to like blend in, And now I feel like we are not too scared to not blend in anymore. I feel like we're taking more chances just like with our looks and our sound and just all around just being a little more not too scared to be different anymore. Whereas like if we were, girls and then on top of that, like, doing a bunch of extra stuff, I feel like we would have felt like we would have not been taken as seriously. But now since we've progressed, we got Spirit Box doing all sorts of cool things and everybody's kind of like, oh snap, like this is, we don't have to be so exclusive to just dudes. Like it's starting to become a little more accepted to be like kind of feminine but still like really metal at the same time. So I feel like we were able to kind of just be ourselves even more instead of trying to just blend in with the guys.
Yeah, it's way more common now to see women in heavy music, which is amazing. There's definitely still room for improvement in some areas, like in terms of acceptance in the industry. I feel like there's definitely more women, but it does still sometimes come across from the industry side as a novelty. Like you can only have one female-fronted band on this festival or only one female-fronted band on this label or whatever it is. So it's definitely still seen as a novelty, and it's still there's a lot of still pitting women against each other and assuming that if you have a female vocalist, specifically a singer, that they're all going to sound the same. And we will get compared to other female bands. Let's say like Kitty. I've seen a lot of comments that are like, oh, they're like Kitty, but I mean, Kitty's awesome. I grew up loving Kitty, but they're two totally different styles. The screams are so different. The singing is so different. Like it's two completely. That'd be like I Prevail in like Metallica.
Yeah.
Like not comparing either of those to either us or Kitty, but just it's in terms of how different. Yeah. So, it's awesome seeing there's way more women being highlighted in the scene. And I think it's also encouraging more women and girls to come to shows as well, which is really huge. You see such a difference. If I go to a show that's got women in the bands versus a show that has no women in the bands, I tend to see a difference in the crowd makeup.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But I also, you know what? Let me add one more thing to that. I also wonder if there's some weird thing with, some guys I think don't want to listen to a band that they know has a female singer. And I don't know if it has to do with like, oh, girls like girly music. It's girly music because it has a female singer. And maybe there's just not as many. Like Conquer Divide has lots of awesome dude fans. Lots and lots of awesome dude fans. And it's amazing. But yeah, I wonder if there's something to be said about that as well for why
And like I get the aspect of like, sometimes like to one's ears, like female vocals being harsh might be weird if you're just so used to hearing male harsh vocals. I mean, there is a slight difference. Like, there's a little bit of higher timbre. Like it's, you can tell. And I don't know if maybe that's like a disdain to their ear because it's so different to what they've been hearing. But that's the only other thing is that maybe it's just the heaviness sounds different coming from a girl. But I honestly don't really hear much of a difference anymore. I feel like everyone's techniques are kind of all getting the same vocally. So like I feel like back in the day, it's like, oh yeah, that's a female screamer because you can kind of hear the undertones. But now I feel like everybody's vocal game has stepped up that it's harder to tell genders. Like it's just heavy and good.
Yeah. Yeah. You listen to Tatiana from Ginger and like, just fucking crushing the deeps. They're just like,
So
Yeah. We were watching the Arch Enemy Hellfest set on YouTube about a week ago, and my daughter, she's 8, and she was like, "Whoa, girls can do that." I'm like, "Yeah." So it's very cool.
Yeah, I think that's why it's also so important just to highlight women who are doing it and to be willing to for women to put themselves out there because the next generation is watching, and that's who is going to, hold the torch.
Yep. When we're old and decrepit.
Yeah. That's who's going to entertain us in the old folks' home.
Yeah. Exactly. Like we're going to be there with red hair like, I want to hear some metal. And they'll be like, we're hearing metal. Music.
Look at these kids, these young ones.
Oh, her screams are so good.
I haven't screamed like that since I took the wrong medications.
I took a walk with the gods, flirting with the demons in my head. I got all I could want, but I can't find the meaning. No, God, I need a new heaven. Thought I had a voice, but now I'm choking on the feeling. Climbed my way to the top, but I still can't reach it.
What led to the hiatus of Conquer Divide?
Lots of just personal issues.
Yeah.
That was very hard to just ignore. So we just had to deal with that. We dealt with it. Took forever. Really sucked. We were all mentally drained and dying from the hiatus. But then it finally resolved itself. Everything cleared up, and we're just basically take 2.
Yeah.
It's a restart. We're like a whole new band. So it was kind of like the death of the first Conquer Divide, essentially. And then we came back, like, with Sam and me on bass, like just a bunch of, it's like a whole new band, essentially. Like that Conquer Divide that was here 2015 has been dead for a few years. And I think it's good because I feel like this, where we are now, it truly feels like the lineup. It feels like we have all the right pieces. So maybe the death was kind of good.
Yeah. Sam, how'd you end up in the band?
Well, it's a long story about the old folks' home. They picked me up off the side of the streets. Okay.
No, look at her. She has a drum set. And
it's just
sign.
I was just sitting in the gutter with my drum set, and they're like, "Her, grab her, throw her in the van."
She looks cool.
Okay, real story though. Okay, I'm gonna date myself, but Kristen found me on MySpace, and but even at the time that she found me on MySpace, I thought MySpace was even dead by that point. So I'm shocked that she found anything on MySpace. And I think it was just audio, probably recordings and maybe some photos. And I don't remember if I had videos up or anything. And she's like, hey, this is even before Conquer Divide was formed. She's like, hey, I'm trying to put together like an all-female heavy band. It was under a different name at the time and a slightly different lineup. So we were like corresponding back and forth for maybe like 6 months. Like Kristen was sending me like ideas, blah, 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 blah. And at the time, I mean, first of all, I was like just graduating university, and I just got my first like real job, and I had no way, like I lived in an apartment, like it was really hard for me to even record or film myself playing and like even coming up with ideas. Like I was just technologically inept at that time as well. And it was just not going to happen. And then at some point we just decided like, hey, like it's probably best to move forward with a different drummer. I'm just not going to be able to do what they need me to do right now because I just got this like big girl job and I don't want to quit. Literally months before. And, so the whole time, I mean, I saw, as Conquer Divide was born and was getting themselves out there, and like people were sending me their stuff because they're like, wow, have you heard this all girl band? And they're like, they can rock and whatever. I know. And I'm like, I know. And I was just like feeling so much like I just missed the boat on that one. And like, oh man, like I just felt really just bad about it. And it sucked. But anyway, a couple of years ago, Kristen was like, hey, I'm going to be at NAMM. I'm like, me too. And we'd never met in person. So we ended up like meeting up and hanging out and having a drink. And then again, with like no intention of, me being involved or anything. And then I think it was the end of 2019 and she contacted me again. She said, hey, so the band's been on this hiatus, but we're looking to kind of restart, and we don't have a drummer anymore. Would you be interested in getting involved? And I was like, oh, thank God. And I was just so, I don't know, it just felt so good. It felt like such a full circle moment of, it wasn't the right time at that time. And there's a number of reasons why I'm now glad I didn't join at that time. And it just wasn't the right time. And I came in what I feel was just the perfect time, and this lineup as well. I mean, I didn't know the previous people, but everyone right now is so amazing, and everyone's like sisters. And I just feel so lucky to be here and so happy to be here. So yeah,
lucky to have you.
Oh.
Janel, what led you to pick up bass in this iteration?
It essentially the first, oh my God, I can't words today. It all started with Chemicals, the music video. And then after that, we were planning on doing Messy. So there was a lot of not many screamy parts in those couple of first singles back. Mm-hmm. And so we were like, okay. And then we were like, well, what do we do? Do we get another bass player? Do we go look and we hope we vibe with them, do that whole thing. It's be our third bass player. So then I was like, well, I know guitar, and I've had a bass before. Like I got a bass when I was younger, and I tinkered with it. And then I know violin, so I was like, I could do it. I could play bass, but I was like, I'll just play bass for Chemicals. And Kristen's like, could you? And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And so then I did it, and then they're like, okay, so bass for Messy, and I was like, yeah. Obviously, I'm not doing anything vocally, so I'm not going to be just like on the side, So I was like, I'll do it. And then we were like, okay, now we're doing it live. What do we do? And I was like, I guess I'm playing bass live then, baby. And so here I am just kind of doing the bass parts. I mean, I rather do the bass parts than having to go get another girl and then hope that we vibe and then have them move to Michigan or hopefully be in Michigan. It's just like a whole other level of stress that would be on us. So I was like, I'll just do it. Let's just do it. So, Hopefully in the future I'll be able to get more away from the bass and just do local stuff. But for now, me and the bass, we'd be hanging out. Yeah.
Nice.
I took one for the team.
We appreciate it.
Yes.
Yeah, you guys decided to come back from hiatus right as the world shut down.
Yeah.
How did COVID affect you guys, and did it give you this room to write this record and experiment with your sound and change things up?
Yeah, I feel like we were like, yeah, we're gonna come back, and then we're gonna start touring 2020 at the end, and then 2021. Oh my god! And then the whole world shut down. So we were like, never mind. Here we go. I feel like it really just stunted us another 2 years again, unwillingly.
We had just, like, a couple weeks before everything shut down, we had just filmed the videos for Chemicals and Bad Guy. And we were just, like, ready, like, ramping up. And it's like, all right, we're, like, fresh. Let's do this thing. And then it was,
and then in March, bye. Everybody is like, all the tours canceled, blah, 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 everything. And so we were like, wow, great, awesome. We've already been gone for, like, 3 years. And now we have to still be gone because everyone's gone. So I think COVID really just stunted us again. But it did help, like, we got a little more time to plan on how we wanted to do album stuff, and like we finished up a couple of album things, and then so I mean it helped us like take our time with finishing the album, but also just like stunted it.
Yeah. How'd you guys end up with a Mascot label?
That's a good question.
I think that was through our former management.
Okay.
I believe. I think that they were, familiar with them, and I don't want to mess up his actual title. Ron Berman leads the U.S. department of Mascot, and he's the one who first signed Nickelback way back. Okay. He had a special interest in Conquer Divide for sure. And I think that it's really through him that the whole Mascot thing happened.
And I don't know why I'm here. Just a ghost in a hollowed out room full of empty ears. 'Cause all your so-called friends are fake, and they don't see me anyway. 'Cause you're perfect life,
The album is out September 8th, called Slow Burn. Where'd the title come from?
I think we were all bouncing off ideas, and I think we had our album artwork first. So we were like, well, let's kind of go something with like this fiery theme. We're all just throwing back and forth stuff. And then Kia said, what about Slow Burn? And we were all like, bro, that's exactly what this album has felt. Like it's been a slow burn to it, being a thing and just being released. And it's been like a slow burn with like, it really just sums up the last 5 years of this band. Like it's a slow burn. So when she said that, I think everybody was like, bro, that's it. The group chat lit up. And here we are. So thanks, Kia. That
big brain energy.
Brain energy came in clutch.
Yeah, and I think it also describes well, Janel was referring to sort of the death of the album one kind of version of Conquer Divide and the birth, kind of like a rebirth. And I think the album art really showcases that. And just the talk about slow burn, and it can have a couple of different meanings. And one is the one Janel described, and I think it can also be used to, talk about like a slow destruction, and it's all about kind of, I don't want to be cliche, but it's the whole like rising out of the ashes and the phoenix and the blah, 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 that kind of imagery. Yeah. Coming back stronger. Yeah.
Stronger, better, and fiery.
Yeah. Right. I got a phoenix. Like, I get it.
Oh, yeah. It's in you now.
Do you feel like with the way the industry's changed, like this album, the singles you've released so far have been very diverse sonically, from like anthemic ballads and like harder hitting metal songs, like because so much of the music industry is playlist and like, people will pick and choose the songs they like from a band. Do you think that helps a band like you to have such a diverse sound?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like, if you're just rewriting the same song over and over, it's just like, okay, a little burnt out. But I like the fact that this next album is just so diverse. It keeps the listener like, oh, it's, every song you're not like, man, this is totally going to sound like the last one. I love the fact that it's like, oh man, let's listen to what this sounds like. So like if one person doesn't like the heavy stuff, half the album they'll love because it's very nice and melodic. And if some person doesn't like nice melodic sing-songy stuff, they'll like the other half. So I think it's just perfect just because it has everything for everyone.
Yeah, it's a lot harder these days to create like a concept album or something where, you're expecting the audience to listen through from start to finish. And we hope people do that they'll buy the full album, they'll listen from top to bottom. But realistically, like you said, Brian, we're in an age of playlisting. We're in an age of singles and videos and things like that. And even videos, some people are arguing, aren't always, the be all end all anymore. So it's great because I think that the natural writing of this band seems to be pretty diverse as well, because there's so many different influences. There's so many different, styles, for example, that like I know Kristen likes to write in. She could write something that's very melodic, very mainstream rock, kind of radio friendly song, or something more like progressive with, odd time and something a little bit, or something super, super heavy. So it gives the band, I guess, an excuse to like kind of flex its writing muscle in that sense and feel more fulfilled, I think, in the writing process. You don't feel like you're pigeonholed into one perfect style. And so that kind of works well, I think, the fact that we're dealing with a playlisting sort of society right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you have like in the scene itself, bands like Spirit Box or Parkway Drive that have like architects who have opened up their sound to be more radio friendly or whatever, but it's like still heavy.
Yeah.
But like the scene is not, I mean, there's still people who are like, oh, they're fucking soft now, but like overall, like those bands are bigger than they've ever been.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, the album is out on the 8th. You guys are going on tour with Electric Callboy. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
What do you have any plans after that tour? Or is that taking up the rest of this year?
We have we're also touring immediately after that with Icon for Hire. So that should be another good one. We're on a portion of that run with them. But other than that, I think that's all we've got planned for the rest of 2023. And hopefully 2024 will be another busy year for the band.
Yeah. Now that the album will be out, doing its thing, I'm predicting hopefully a lot more tours next year.
Yeah.
On the outside we march on, in a world we don't belong. All the cuts and breaks, they make us who we are. Have you ever been left out, been faceless in the crowd? All the beautiful people.
Yeah, and I think give the whole thing a chance too, because like we were just talking about, there's something for everybody. So if you hear about Conquer Divide and you hear a song and you're like, oh, I don't know if it's my style or my thing, like listen to the other songs. There will probably be something for you, because it really is a diverse album and really dynamic. And I mean, even for someone like me, and I tend to skew towards the heavier stuff for what I naturally like to listen to. The next single we're putting out is a very, rock friendly track, and it's one of my absolute favorites. And it's a simple on drums. It's got a catchy hooks. Like, it's just a good one. And so I think give the whole album a chance.
And if you're in the East Coast / Midwest, we will be on tour in your area in September with Icon for Hire. So I think all those shows are still lots of tickets. So come out, see us play. We'll be playing a lot of new stuff off the new album, and then also try to catch us with Electric Callboy. I'm pretty sure more than half is sold out, but I think there's a couple dates that aren't. But yeah, there's always that Icon for Hire tour.
Yeah, they don't make it out this way often, so I think people are ready to see Electric Callboys.
Yeah,
I don't blame them.
Can't wait.
Invisible, so invisible, invisible. I can see you in the dark. We're so invisible.
Thanks for listening to As the Story Grows. Our intro music was written and composed by Jeremy Hunt. The As the Story Grows theme is by Bob Nana. If you like what you hear, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and give us a rating and review. If you'd like to support the show financially, you can join us at patreon.com/asthestorygrows. Be a part of our community and join the ongoing conversation over on Discord. If you enjoy this episode, share it on social media with your friends. Much appreciated, and thanks for listening.
I know